Hello, 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 everyone. I must ask you a question, but I'll shave it for later. Yes, the mustache is gone. I'm sure it'll be back, but it was tickling my nose the other day, so you know what happens when I get annoyed. I I do what I want to do. I also got some new tattoos. The new EK or the it's not the new EK, it's the original. Whoops, let's turn the volume down on that. The predecessor to the EK, so a 1950 W1BN, I believe it was. And then I got a Femina right back there. Fun stuff. But anyway, um yeah, that's the good stuff. All right, so let's see. Let me pull up chat. All right, so I put a weird title on this. Do not trust anyone. Don't trust anyone. Why do I put that? Well, it's like more and more every single day I realize the power that influencers wield over people, intentionally or unintentionally, the the thinness of resolve of a lot of consumers, meaning people will buy something if they see one person say something negative, they are very upset at the world and want to burn everyone down. But also the fear of people if a machine isn't talked about. It's just there's this weird um, quasi parasocial relationship when it comes to consumerism, which puts people in weird positions. But the reason I say don't trust anyone is because I'm constantly, and this is not me defending myself or anything, I'm constantly accused of being, it's so funny. In the last week, I've been accused of being in 4 different grinder companies' pockets. Don't you think that in and of itself is a bit silly? But anyway, and so the fact of the matter is people already, like, there's a big portion of the population who are incredibly skeptical of anything anyone says. Until someone says something that they like, in which case they're like, oh, look, this person's great. So I'm just going to say, don't trust anyone. Don't even trust me. All you can do is suss out the bad behavior and, figure out the things that make most sense. People make jokes that I'm too data driven. Well, it's because, well, there we go. We know why it's because. When you get into subjectivity, people get really upset. So, with the growing influence of the coffee in the domestic market, with the growing sales and marketing ploys that are being, launched on the public every week from here until Tuesday, with all of this going on, it is very important that we ensure we understand that there are people getting paid to sing praises. We need people to be upfront about where their loyalties are. But what I really wanted to briefly talk about is the fact that the coffee world is weird. The coffee influencer space is very weird. And what do I mean by that? I mean, if we look at Marquise, if we look at Mr. Who's the Boss, if we look at any of these tech reviewers, none of them are expected to buy all their gear. And they're trusted implicitly to be unbiased, to have the best in mind for the audience because, well, their success is built on that trust. In the coffee world, that doesn't fly. Unlike every other world there is in the coffee world, there was a precedent set that you must buy your gear in order to be unbiased. I have fallen into that, and I do that, though I think it's a bit wild. It's also just ironic that even while doing that, I still, you're never above reproach, right? But anyway, the coffee world is weird, and it is growing, and it is finally beginning to mirror other subcultures, subgenres of the zeitgeist. So pay attention as we go forward. We've been at the forefront of something brand new for a long time, and we are now entering into the cyclical world of everything else that has gotten big, whether it is, it was said, history repeats itself first as tragedy and then as farce. Well, that we're in the farcical cycle, the cyclical nature of everything that goes around and around. And that's my little philosophical tidbit for the evening. I'm drinking some decaf coffee. It is lovely. It is 2 weeks off roast, decaf red fruits from the Colombia, from El Placer. Delicious coffee. But anyway, let's go ahead, get past the mumbling mumbo jumbo, get past the original shock and awe of the mustache being ripped off of my face, at least momentarily, temporarily, and oohing and ahhing at my sweet new ink. And let's get to some questions. And the questions are, can be about anything, but I imagine some will be about this stuff. All right, let's see. Trust no one. Clicks link. Oh shoot, that's hilarious. Let's discuss the Cafe Masha review of Weber Key. I did not see it. I'll bet you Lance will be having technical issues. Trust me. I have it figured out now. Did you put the mustache with the ponytail? You know I did. Who are you and why did 20 years old Lance take over? Look how young I look. Honestly, a big reason I did it is because people, and it's not because these comments were affecting me. I was mostly curious. So people keep seeing earlier videos of mine, and they'd be like, "Oh my god, you aged like 10 years or 20 years in just the 3 years we've been doing this or whatever." And I was like, you know what? I really think it's just my mustache that's making me look so old. And so I just wanted to see if it would age me back. And boy, oh boy, it did. I feel like a friggin' child without facial hair. I mean, look at this. Let's go play ball. I feel like I'm freaking 12. All right. This shirt, yes, I got this shirt from a friend in Paris. Vintage Lance look, you know it. Opinion on SSP brew burst depends on your poison. What size we talking? Hi from Netherlands. Pre-COVID Lance is back. LOL. What do you think about the SSP multi-purpose version 1? I think they're very high clarity, nice burrs. Casually showing off his bean cellar. Oh, I forgot that was up there. Oops. No, it's because I've ordered a new freezer and I'm waiting for it to come, and it arrives for Thursday. It arrives Thursday. So once it comes in, I'll be taking those away. Data driven or data informed? That is a good question. So there's obviously nuance there if you're not picking up on it. Data driven is literally what it sounds like. You are being driven by the data. So you get some data and you're allowing it to kind of push you into new areas. Whereas data informed, oh, something just popped on the screen. I like when that happens. Whereas data informed is, it's the data that you have gathered informs your conclusion or informs your stance or whatever it might be. So I would probably say, going off those definitions, which they could be even more nuanced than that, and those people can disagree with those definitions, but based off those, honestly, I probably am data driven, but the person, I would say the vehicle is taste and the driver is data, or it could be vice versa. I need to really suss that out, think through that. But I'm always going based off taste, of course, but for repeatability and for, efficiency and whatnot, I do rely on data. Come on. But when we're reviewing gear, I'm definitely data driven. Definitely data driven. Big grinder lining Lance's pockets. I wish if I had big grinder lining my pockets and I became, listen, everybody's got a price for their word. All right. Someone comes and offers me $50 million to say their grinder rocks. I'm taking that. But guess what? Grinder companies in the world have that budget. None. All right. So it ain't going to happen. That's what you got to think about is it just makes no sense. Like, think about what budget is capable of these grinder companies. Like for instance, if you're going to accuse me of like the recent ones have been Zerno, Weber, Calfatech, Time More, how many? There's been so many. Espresso, which is so funny to me. Because, like, that's a conflict of interest, right? Technically. I mean, if you think about it, because I do have a grinder on the market in a way with my burr set. Anyway, it's just funny. Hey, from Detroit. I've tried to ignore your advice before, like, nah, that can't be true, but it always works. So I guess I got to trust you now. LOL. Even still, though, this is why with all of my videos, I publish the data and I say, try this for yourself, right? I'm not, even though I do, whenever I'm posting things, I tend to try to post things when I have data that's on my side. That's not always ironclad, though. You need multiple repetitions. You need other people trying things out. There are so many ways to approach coffee, and I could be wrong. That's the thing is, and when I say don't trust anyone, honestly, you can trust me that I'm being honest with you. Now, honesty, people can be misguided. People can be honest when they say they believe X, Y, or Z. They could be wrong in those beliefs, but they're being honest. Like if if like my 3-year-old said 2 plus 2 equals 5, I'm like, do you really think so? Yes, I promise. He's not lying. That's just what he believes. He doesn't actually believe that. But I'm just saying, as an example, you can trust I'm being honest. Now, whether or not the what I say and what I'm honest about is aligns with your experience or your taste or your desires or whatever it might be, that's a different thing altogether. But so I guess, I'm being misled. See, you can't even trust. No, you can't trust me apparently because my title was untrustworthy. But yeah, no, it's less of a don't trust anyone and more realize that people can be honest and still be misaligned with you. That's just not a very catchy title, is it? No. 3D printing is the same as tech reviewers, by the way. They get stuff thrown at them. There you go. Should I trust Mr. Clean Coffee? He seems like a good guy. More like a good child. I mean, look at me. I am a child right now. This is wild. Critical review, so professional, based analysis and particle distribution graphs that even owners of the key did not argue nor shitstorm. It was very critical based on, okay, I need to watch it then. I am not a fan of when someone just throws up a particle analysis without there being a lot of comparison, because a particle analysis means nothing without intense comparisons and relativity and sensory based testing. Now that being said, Coffee Master typically does a good job with that stuff, but yeah, I'm curious now to watch it. I've always been critical of the key, and it's not because it's the key; it's because the burr set's crap. I'm curious if they tested any other 83 millimeter Moser burr grinder when they did testing for the key. I don't think it's the key that's the issue. I think it's the burr set that is the culprit. So, well, you said critical, so I'm assuming it was like quasi negative. But yeah, I hate 83 millimeter. Here's the thing: dirty secret. I do have the HG2, which has these 83 millimeter cones in them. I got it though because I am obsessed with spinning the thing. Now, I know that sounds absolutely ridiculous. I know it does. But I got it at I got it. I was at an expo and I was spinning it and I was like, I freaking love this. And I got it telling myself that I would learn to love the flavor profile with old school coffees when I make coffee on my traditional lever machines. I was like, the particle distribution, honestly, the way the grinder cuts matters less and less. I'm not saying it doesn't matter, okay? Don't clip me here and say, listen, the darker roast you drink, the less the burr geometry and the crushing of the beans matters. I'm not saying it doesn't matter. It's kind of like if you have 100 meters in front of you and then you cut it in half, then cut it in half, cut it in half. You're going for infinity. You're never going to get to zero. In the same way, you're never going to get to it doesn't matter when I say it matters less. It's a spectrum, right? The darker your coffee, the lower the quality, whatever it might be, the more burnt it is, the less it matters because you're going to get it's so easily extractable. There's going to be loads of microfines that will be boosting the texture, the tactile of it. So it doesn't matter as much. So I'm thinking, I'll get this, and even though I haven't had good experience with the 83 cones, maybe over time it'll be all good. Now, to be honest, it's been sitting in my basement for quite some time. I know, hilarious, $1,000 hand grinder sitting in my basement, but I'm sure I'll bring it back out if I drink dark enough stuff. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's bad enough. 83 millimeter cones from Moser are bad enough, even with dark roasts. For me. Okay. That is just kind of relegated to downstairs. Okay. You look 5 years younger. See, that's what I thought. 28-year-old Lance. Could I be a college student? Okay, there's some gifts for you. Okay. Just got looking very clean and crisp with lovely acidity notes of bright citrus. Love it. Just got a little Leapmar X, but kind of want the Caffeolette Robot too. Reddit can give better espresso. Talk me out or into it. Okay, better espresso. That is such a silly thing for anyone to say. It's not going to give you better espresso. It might give you more consistent espresso or easier, good tasting espresso. Better espresso. Maybe. I mean, so there is it's a bit easier to pull consistent shots with the Coffee Lot over the Lelite. There's easier thermal management. It has a much more tapered basket, which allows for a bit less inconsistencies. Though you can also do something similar in the Lelite, but you have a higher dose potential in the Coffee Lot, which makes things a lot more fun. I don't know. It just depends. I know a lot of people who get rid of their $2,000-$3,000 machines and go just for a robot, which I understand. So my geisha from Standard is my first time brewing a geisha. Should I treat it differently from other coffees? They are more they're more delicate. But you don't beat the mess out of the extraction. Keep the extraction nice and low. You want those florals to pop through. Don't blow it up with temperature. Just kind of chill with it. Initial thoughts on the MHW3 Bomber shaker design. I have not seen it, so I don't know. Bro's got the beauty filter on. No, I will not be getting it because I just got in this the Swarks shaker, which I know I have an expensive taste when it comes to shakers. Obviously, no, what it is I know when it came to the Weber shaker, that was literally included in my testing because I had it because I bought the EG1 3 years ago, so I already had it. I didn't really use it much. Samo Smirke said include a shaker. I didn't feel like buying a shaker when I already owned one, so I included the Weber. Then I just got used to the Weber. Then I read reports online that the knockoffs or the non-Webers all had bad coating and was causing a lot of retention. So I just didn't faff around buying another one. I figured, I don't need to review these. Like, people can duke it out themselves. They're already all calling me a Weber shill for saying the Weber shaker was the best. Anyway, Swarks made this with a funnel attached because he watched my videos and he made a change that is incredible. Now, I was not shy in saying that in order to get the zhush, in order to make the Weber shaker the work really well, is you need to drop it from like a distance. So like if this is the portafilter, you need to drop it from like here. Okay, you don't want to put it on the portafilter as it was designed to do, and then lift it. And and even after I posted my video, Weber capitalized obviously on the situation. Why wouldn't you? But still, they capitalized on the situation, posted like a video about how to use it, and it was not the way I said to use it. And I was just like, that's kind of funny. That's not the way I tested for it to be used. Do what you want, but yeah. Someone said they make a big mess when they drop from on top of the portafilter. Are you not using a friggin' collar? I have never once. I even drop it into 49 millimeter baskets without dropping it at all, because when you're using the Weber one, the base is much smaller than 58. That's the base is around this area, which is way smaller than 58. Okay, that base is way smaller than 58. And so whenever you lift, in fact, it gets even smaller. If you put it from about here, it's going to have a wider channel than if you lift it even higher, because as it comes out, it's going to the center. So the grounds go like this. So if you get up high enough, you're going to get a really thin stream of coffee coming out. So if you're dropping it, work on your hand-eye coordination, you goob. Come on. But anyway, what I loved about this is he built in the funnel. So now you can just set it directly on your portafilter, lift it out, tap. It's just not as satisfying of a tap. It's like, I don't like that. Well, this one, it's like, lunch. See what I mean? This one's like, feels like, I don't know, grody. I don't like it as much. And I don't like all the O-rings. In fact, I'm going to take this O-ring out. Just kidding. I'm going to do it later because it is tight in there. Okay. But anyway, so far still for just workflow, I just like the Weber shaker. I've beat the mess out of it. Still works like a charm. Like I use it all today, and there's there's like maybe a little dust, maybe. There. That's what I get on mine. Anyway, I will say though, I did buy the Weber tamper, and I got to be honest with you, I love it. Call me a shill. I paid for it full price, the 129 or whatever the heck it was. I love it, but it's because it knocks everything that I wanted in my review. Of tampers, I chose the decent tamper. Now, the decent tamper, I quickly shelved. Originally, I was testing the happy tamper, right? So originally, I was going to use the happy tamper in my tamper testing, but the base caused a lot of suction against the puck, and I was getting so many grounds up here, it'd get stuck a lot. And so I was like, screw this, I'm not using it anymore. So then I used the decent tamper for my control tamper, or not my control tamper, but for my, like, my self-leveling option. But then after my video came out, Happy Tamper created a new base that no longer has the suction issues, and so it's much better. And there's not any, like, there's no real wobble like there is with the decent. Like with the decent, you can still tamp crooked even with the self-leveling, at least with V3. I haven't checked out V4, V5, V6. With this one, that was much less possible, but still a little possible. And honestly, while I do like this, I'm such a big fan of like the traditional style of tamp that's, more like a tamp that you can kind of hold like that. And so when this came out, I was like, well, I got to try that. And it's nice. And there's no play at all on the neck. I like it a lot. And you can still palm tamp, which is nice because I do like the palm tamp. It's more like the aesthetic. I hate this massive branding of Happy Tamper on the side. I hate the little dots on top. I hate the visible screw right in the middle. I hate the numbers on the side. It's like it's just a little sore for the eyes. Whereas this one, you can't even see the logo really. It's on top, but it's almost not even like visible, which I much prefer. And it just kind of blends into my setup. Anyway, that's enough of that. Do you have a go-to decaf time for new coffees? It really depends on the roast level. French Coffee Geek, I can just send you the profile. Send me a message on Instagram. He was asking about extracting uno dos. If you want to replicate it, I can just send you the profile. Are you going to do a review of the Lagom 01 or wider? Yes, Kyle Rosell, I believe, shipped me his Lagom 01. So everyone should go give some support to Kyle Rosell. He's done a great job launching his roaster September, his roasting company. He is a phenomenal human being, Canadian good old boy, YouTuber. Hasn't posted a YouTube video in, I believe, a year now because he's been so caught up in his roastery. Go buy a coffee from him and say thank you because he is sending me his personal Lagom 01 so that I can review it because he hasn't had time to. And he said, I want people to get a good review of it. I don't have time to. Would you like to borrow it? And I was like, Kyle Rosell, you freaking sweet son of a gun. I would absolutely love to borrow it. And so I believe it should be being shipped soon. Target average grams a second flow rate for an E61 heat exchanger for a 20-gram shot using flow control. I go hardcore, as you know, John. I like to go hardcore on a fast fill rate, and then I crank it down to about 1.75 to 2 grams a second flow rate for the remainder of the shot. I don't change it. Baseball players and mustaches, same thing. Not sure what that means, but heck yeah. First time buying Onyx from you, I got the Sebastian Ramirez White Gesha and the Kenya Kavote. Heck yeah. Now, you can let them rest a long time if you'd like, or you can pop them open about 2-3 weeks out or after. Just whenever you decide to do it, consume them within a week. You don't have to, but that's just the rule of thumb I have for every coffee always. Once you open a bag, oxidation starts immediately. Drink it, unless you are single dosing and freezing or something like that. So, yeah. I'm drinking Columbia. Oh, and to continue on the resting, I think they probably taste a little bit better if you wait longer because how lightly roasted they are. But with the Typhoon, weirdly, you can drink it a lot sooner after roast than on something like the Loring, at least in my experience. So yeah. Loma Red Fruits by Presta Coffee. Nice. If a top puck screen allows you to grind coarser and a bottom puck filter lets you grind finer, do they even out? No, they do not. The top puck screen grinding coarser is so minimal that you may not even be able to track it. What would be opinion on 64 millimeter SSP burst or the SSP multi-purpose V1? Can you pair them to V2? I actually need to get the new V1, so I can't really say much about it. What could be the driver of friction sound on the 078S when going too coarse? Friction sound. I'm not sure I understand that. If you like when stuff pops on the screen from your Mac, do the metal horns. I don't know how to do that. Like Hong Kong, that looked bad. Don't GIF that, please. That was like fireworks at one point. My Mac sucks, apparently. Okay. If you like when... Oh. As a side note about data-driven versus former game designer worked for a company that really believed in data, we had many arguments about letting the data drive our design. Yeah, no, I get that. and for me, since I'm not designing anything, I'm more so trying to produce as an unbiased things as possible and not let the bias kind of influence things. I believe data is a good way to offset that, because here's the thing: no matter how data driven I attempt to be, I'm going to be biased in how I'm led regardless. So I like to focus as much as I can on data where applicable, so that it does offset as much as possible the unconscious bias that I inevitably inherently do have, right? Yeah. When are you coming to Madeira to drink some? Oh my God, I'll come to Madeira. Are you on Madeira? Island Rescue? Because Ugo, my cameraman, he consults for a coffee shop on Madeira, in Funchal. I'll come out there. That'd be fun. That'd be fun. Okay. Um, Fully agree on 078 being most affordable per pour over. What grinder would you recommend for espresso only with the same approach? Best value for price. Best value for the price. It's difficult because the Time War 078 is truly, arguably an end game pour over grinder, meaning it, depending on the person, it genuinely could be the preference of many experienced tasters against $4,000 grinders, $3,000 grinders. So it is truly an anomaly, and I believe it's because that bird design is so unique. It like they nailed it out of the park, which can't be said about the 64 millimeter turbos or their Stacut burrs for their hand grinders. Now, some of y'all might have them and love them. I'm saying for me, okay? For me. Okay. And don't trust anyone, right? Okay. So for espresso, it also, see, this is the other thing, is with pour overs, the majority of people are roughly looking for the same thing, or in a broad category. All right. This is actually a video I'm going to make soon, is what the heck does espresso mean? What do we mean when we say espresso? If I'm to interpret you as meaning thick, gooey, 1940s to modern day espresso, where it goes 1 to 2 ish kind of thing, that's one thing. But there's so many approaches to espresso that it's difficult to really say. Because technically, some people may find the 078 with the turbo burst perfect for their espresso, because they may be doing like a friggin' weird blooming turbo at Chirp. I don't know what they're doing. So it's we need new terms when it comes to espresso style beverages, because what we have right now is not sufficient. Is not sufficient. We know what someone means when they say a pour over, because let's be real, the differences are so minute. The majority of people aren't going to be able to blindly taste a Kalita versus a V60 if I dial them in as similarly as possible. That's just not really going to happen. But if I try to dial in a turbo shot and a traditional shot as similar as possible, nobody's not guessing the difference. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm gonna say using light tough color. Are the numbers in your color spreadsheet based on what we get without Onyx US still citing 75 as light on their website? Okay, so let's just make sure everyone understands this. What US Onyx does is not what I do. Okay, US Onyx, and I'm trying to get them to change this. Their Agtron, they're using an Agtron, and they are reading whole bean color numbers, and that's what they publish on the website. I disagree with this, and I've said that we need to change that. Whole bean is not a helpful metric in the slightest. Some would say color in general is not helpful, which I think is silly. All of the research we have now, where it comes from a sensory point of view, is that color is the most important aspect when it comes to predicting preference. Look at Morton Munchau's research, okay? I've done a whole video on it. Color is an incredibly important predictor of flavor preference. Are there flaws in relying solely on color? Absolutely. But when someone is talking about light roast, which one is lighter, there's only one way to discuss that, and that is based off of color, because that is the only objective measure. You could say this tastes lighter, but light is it is the color of the coffee. So objectively, saying something is lighter even if it doesn't taste lighter, that's based off of the color reading, right? So with that out of the way, Onyx does whole bean reading, and they have their own system of what is light and dark based off of whole bean, but that is inherently flawed, and I want them to change it, and I'm just being honest about this. So when you read whole bean, depending on the process, depending on a multitude of factors, it could read darker or lighter than what it actually is. What do I mean by that? I mean, I could take a coffee that's 75 whole bean, which could be super light. Picky Chemist roasts a lot of their beans at 75 whole bean. Then you grind it. One of the 75s could be 150 at ground, 150 Agtron, whereas the other could be 110 ground. So doing whole bean is not helpful in the slightest because you could have you could have a disparity of 40, 50 points when it's ground up. So don't pay attention to those. I'll be honest. I don't think it's helpful. I think it's misleading even. And even on the Onyx EU, we will be switching to my Lighttell's readings at some point. Hopefully, once we start releasing coffees in the next month or so, we'll switch to my readings and my kind of glossary. But for now, do not put any stock in whole bean Agtron. It doesn't make any sense. It's not helpful and is not indicative of the actual roast level. What I have on my public document is Omni, the dye fluid color reader at ground. So those are a bit more accurate, especially because I put it relative. So the number one thing with color readings is not an objective number. It is a relative number. So you need to have a consistent device that can read multiple coffees, and then you'll be able to see relative to another coffee if it is lighter or darker. So that's why on the publicly available Excel sheet, I have multiple roasters, a multiplicity, so you're able to go through and see what is objectively reflecting lighter or darker colors. Now, does that tell you one will taste lighter or taste darker? Absolutely not. Is it a good indicator of that? Yes, it absolutely is. But there are always exceptions to rules. That's what proves the rule. Okay. So now that's out of the way. I do use Lighttell's now, but just for Onyx, for my own readings of Onyx EU, which I don't have all those published because I have an internal document I'm doing for myself. For everything that's public, it's the dye fluid because those require smaller samples of coffee. And so I don't want to waste a ton by using the Lighttell's, but the Lighttell's does require about twice as much coffee to get a solid reading. But it is more accurate and it's a much nicer piece of equipment. I actually have it right here. Okay. What's the pro and cons to use filter papers with high extraction baskets? Did you use them and why? The pros is cleanliness. Those holes can get really annoyingly dirty. The pro is puck prep means a lot less. It's already meaningless whenever you use high extraction baskets. It's even less when you got the paper filter on the bottom. It helps with more even saturation of that puck. Cons, wasteful. Cons, honestly, well, I guess another pro is it's a cleaner knockout of the puck. It's just easier. But I don't ever use them because waste. Gifted Elito OG. Any tips to keep track of the fine adjustments? I mean, you can keep a journal, or you can take photos, or you can. I don't know. Normally, I just know. I kind of settle in when I'm using pour over. I kind of just settle in on a specific number, and it rarely ever changes. And if I'm doing espresso, then it always moves anyway. So I don't really keep it. I might have like one go-to, which is based off what I call my fixed gap theory, which is not really a theory. It's more of a practice. But essentially, whatever coffee you brew the most of at home on espresso, grind it on or when you have it perfectly dialed in, note what that marker is, and then when you ever get a new coffee, pull a shot at that grind size and take note of that, and then you'll always have an idea relative to where you normally are, so that you can make changes a lot easier, as opposed to trying to always refine where you're at. You can always know, oh, this one I need to be a lot coarser than my baseline coffee, kind of thing. Cafe Flower Deep 27 versus V60 size 01. I mean, if you were talking about small doses, Deep 27, no question. If I were to be if I were to be allowed two pour over devices for life, it'd be a V60 and a Cafe Deep 27. Done. And it's because the V60 is going to give me my 15-gram doses. The Deep 27 is going to give me my 6 to 8 gram doses. Done. Okay. I don't want to faff around with big doses. I have already decided I'm never going to brew more than 20 grams on a pour over ever again. If I want over 20 grams, I'm getting a batch brewer. I'm going to get like the Aiden or the Precision Brewer from Sage Breville, or the Ratio, and I'm going to brew that because all of those do a better job than hand pour overs. Now, you may prefer your pour over of 25, 30 grams, and that's fine. I'm not arguing with you and telling you you're wrong. I'm saying for me, I have found massive inconsistencies when you're having to pour through a gooseneck that much water over that much coffee, that much bed depth. I even used the big boy today for a 35-gram pour over. The big boy, the one from Oreo. I don't like that stuff. I would prefer batch brew when it's over 20 grams. But yeah, for 15-gram doses, give me the O2 V60. For less than like 10, like 6, 7, 8 grams, give me the Deep 27 because I like those styles of cups. Those are great. Buku grinder. Oh, I didn't even know that they were doing a Buku grinder. First stream is a Patreon. Let's go. What's up, the Dancing Sosa? Barista Hustle Coffee Compass Down Filter Coffee. Yeah, it's not bad. About the new Apartmento PID. What other machine would you consider with that price point? It depends on where you're located, of course. I'm probably just not getting an Apartmento. Well, they do have pretty good build quality, obviously, but it depends. I've not looked at it, so I can't speak about it. I can't speak about it. I don't know. Like, yeah, it has PID, but like, is it like what's inside? I don't know. We can be drive driven and still have unconscious biases. It's part of being human. Exactly. That's my point. Any experience or thoughts on the Normcore high extraction basket? I mean, I'm just not a big fan of the high extraction baskets. I feel like that I was pretty clear about that in my fancy basket video, where I was like, you can put a bottom paper filter and emulate it in a VST or a Pullman. I don't really use high extraction baskets for the most part because I'm usually pulling 49 millimeter basket shots. Now I am doing further testing with 49 millimeters because a lot of people have, and you can clip this part. This is something you can share with your friends and neighbors. Minute 35:51. Okay. So there's been so much misunderstanding on my thoughts on 49 millimeters. I'm not saying that a 14-gram dose in a 49 millimeter basket is going to give you a massive aspect ratio you can't emulate in a 58. Yes, you can. A 14-gram dose is like a 20.2 gram dose in a 58 millimeter. I'm saying not only can you match aspect ratio with smaller doses, but you can get massive aspect ratios with deeper baskets without using a ton of coffee in a 49 millimeter, which allows you to grind coarser and everything else. So all things consistent, if I were to take a 49 millimeter basket and a 58 millimeter basket, I put 20 grams in both like I did in that one video, I'm able to get a much better shot for me and the 20-gram dose on the 49 millimeter than on the 58. And then if I were to get a 30-gram basket, which I have in the mail right now, and I were to match aspect ratios, the likelihood is they're going to taste very similar to the same. The only big difference I won't be able to control is the temperature gradient that will inevitably occur because how much bigger the puck is on the bigger basket. Now, what is also great is there are people who say, well, I prefer the higher clarity from the 58 millimeter because they're more shallow pucks. You dum-dums. Listen, you can get the same aspect ratio in a 49 millimeter. You're not held back by it. The advantage is it can do everything a 58 millimeter basket can do, and then some without wasting more coffee. That's the point of it. If you get a 14-gram, 49 millimeter basket, you're getting the same aspect ratio and the same clarity as you're getting in the 58 millimeter. It's just you have the capability of greatly increasing that aspect ratio. Doing a 15-gram dose in a 49 millimeter basket is the same as a 21.5-gram dose in a 58. So imagine what a 20-gram dose in a 49 is. That's like a 29-gram dose in a 58 millimeter basket, which is just unrealistic. Also, when you're dialing in coffees, wouldn't you rather, even if you loved your 20-gram shot on your 58 millimeter basket, wouldn't you rather waste two 14-gram shots, 28 grams of coffee before you hit your God shot, rather than two 20-gram shots, which is 40 grams of coffee before you get your then 60 grams of coffee for your God shot overall? You see what I'm saying? There's a big disparity there. You're going to save a lot of money over time. You're not going to waste as much. It's just, that's my point with the 49 to 58. All right. You can get better coffee with 49 because there's a higher potential for aspect ratio. You can get better coffee with the 49 because you don't have to waste as much coffee. You can get better coffee with the 49, because you get what I'm saying. It's not a 49 is better. It's 58 is played out and is not necessary. Okay. That's what I'm trying to say. That's all I'm trying to say. Okay. Can you get the same cup from like a 29-gram dose? Probably. But who wants a 29 freaking gram shot of espresso? You know what I'm saying? Oh, there we came. That. Woo! Slow feeding, auger pre-breakers, blind shaking, lots of innovations in recent years. Where do you see this little shared hobby bars going in broad strokes, specific innovations? There's a lot coming. I just can't share it with you. Using fine screens that come with the Swartz blind shaker. If so, which ones for brew methods? I really haven't, to be honest. Speaking of 83, any thoughts about the SSP 83 brew and the finishing texture that looks like the Denning 804 machine? I've not even seen those. There's so many burrs. Oh my God. What's the biggest thing you've changed your mind on or feel you've been wrong about over the years? Great question. Obviously, WDT. I made multiple videos on the efficacy of it and the superiority of it. Now, that being said, it was all in good faith because the way I tested and the lack of shaker in my testing really was not like my fault that I didn't have it. So, but that was something that was pretty wild. I was relying on purported tests others had done, and once I actually did it myself, I realized it was not that effective of a distribution method. So that was a pretty wild thing. And then the other is I've gone back and forth on cones versus flats. I originally was on the flat, or I guess I was originally on this massive like, don't put these into a box. Cones can be just as complex and flats can be just as dull. Now, I still believe that to an extent, but I'm never choosing a cone over a flat. And that's largely because over the years I've learned more so the fracture dynamics with cones, and they seem to be producing across the board much more heat being transferred into those beans from the way that they're crushing them, and I've just not enjoyed them as much. And I will always choose a flat, even when I want a dark roast, juicy, thick, creamy bean. I'm gonna get flat burrs. Okay, that's just how it is. That's just how the cookie crumbles for me. Okay. Last stream, dude, you should get a bald cap and become Mr. Clean. LOL. Do you have any experience with the Fiamma now? No, I do not. But someone at their company annoyed me because they leave awful comments on local businesses that really pee me off. So Fiamma, get your crap together and put a lid on that one employee who's an a-hole. So annoying. Don't go around and like use a condescending tone on local baristas and like, come on, be a mature. I've not done anything with that company because they have that guy on staff and it just annoys me. I can be petty. I don't care. Annoys me. Swartz conversion kit versus step down basket. Can you remind me if you already covered a taste comparison? Already have the basket and fighting the FOMO. Yeah. Oh, so I mean, the conversion kit is going to taste better. It is. You have a lot less headspace, and so you're immediately getting the puck saturated all the way through. So you're going to get less watery runs. You're going to get more thick shots. You're going to have just a better time overall. And the workflow is through the roof different. So I mean, don't have FOMO and go out and buy it. But I mean, if like I'm just like I'm trying to be honest about it, right? I don't. My hope is that you don't go out and buy something just because it's sounds better. Okay. All right. I had to set up my phone in a weird way. Key scored very well overall, build, workflow, decibels, but scored very negative in taste. Particle analysis, including comparison, was included. Comparison to other 83 conicals was not included. See, that's the issue there, right? You like putting it against a 64 flat or even a 63 cone. Like, what does that mean? You can't say one's better than the other because you can't do that. That's not a thing. As someone who has taken many particle size distributions and has done many sensory testing and has theorized over all this stuff, I'm just telling you, you cannot look at a curve and say this is better than that because XYZ. The only thing we can do is say, this has more fines than that, but that doesn't mean one is better than the other. It's more so, what is this trying to accomplish? And guess what? I have never once read a statement from Modzer saying 83 millimeter cones are intended to have this specific profile. I've never read that. So give us blue steel. Also, mewing. That's what the kids do. Could another 83 conical burr set from SSP be installed in the key? Yeah, but I think it's the same. I think it's the same geometry. Any tips for brewing Sprover? Has anything changed since your video a few years back? I mean, I just don't brew Sprovers very often. If I want something that tastes like filter, I'm brewing filter because it's better. That's just long and short of it. Big Weber got to him. I know. Busy dad here. Sometimes need to start espresso making several times. End up with cold coffee. Philosophical thoughts on life versus espresso hobby. Busy dad here. Sometimes need to start espresso making. End up with cold coffee. Well, when it's espresso, Listen, I'm a busy dad. I get it. But when it's espresso, you can always slam that junk. That's what it's made for. You just slam it. You're in the middle of a shot, you hear a scream, you stop that shot short and you slam it. Okay. And then you just hope you get back for one that actually will give you a little bit more pleasure. But the fact of the matter is, as busy human beings that have hobbies, it is important to make time for said hobbies, especially if it's a passion of yours, right? There's and I know I understand the no time thing. I'm the worst person ever for people to make that argument against of like I just don't have time because listen, if anyone understands, it's your boy. I am addicted to spending my time working like a freaking robot. So but you always need to make these times for your hobbies. You need to figure out a time, whether it's sacrificing just a little bit of sleep or whether that's reprioritizing what your evenings are. So in the morning you can do something else, whatever it might be. You need to make time for a hobby. Like this is what's going to make you sane. This is what's going to make you a better human for for the people around you. We've all got to have our little things. All right, and that's what makes us us. Once you lose who you are, is when everything kind of goes to shit. All right, so let's just be honest there. We got it. We got to make time for ourselves. And with coffee, I mean, the reason we have people watching me talk about coffee live is because you all are crazy coffee kooks. All right, it's obviously a passion. It's obviously a hobby. It's obviously part of who you are, and that is something that is important. That is, and it's something that honestly should be celebrated. And hopefully, as a community, we celebrate that together. So my little philosophical take there is make time for it. Make time for your espresso. It's not that long of a ritual. Pop the machine on, wait till it's heated up, do other things while you need to. But when it's time to make espresso, make sure that you have figured out a time where you can spend 5 minutes grinding your coffee, enjoying the aroma, enjoying the preparation, pulling the shot, watching it, following it, and taking a sip. You can find 5 minutes, right? Like 5 minutes, bada bing, bada boom, and you'll be good to go. Whether that's putting a little espresso, set up at your office, or whether that's waking up a little bit earlier, or whatever it might be. You need to find the 5 to 10 minutes to look forward to. Make sure that you have that. Okay. Let's see. Always make big mess when I drop from above the PF. Ever resolve the consistency issues with your decent? Yes. I've been thinking about getting one as a tool to get better at understanding espresso extraction. Also, just considering a direct lever. Yes, in a way. So I have not done. So the thing is, when I made that comment, I felt like I was clear about where the inconsistencies occurred, and I also feel like no one heard me say when the inconsistencies occurred. Very, very few people in the world are pulling as many shots as I do on the decent while also measuring what's going on. In fact, I would say nobody is. There are shops that use these as pop up things, but they're not analyzing the data of every single shot like I do. And so the inconsistency for me was more on a macro level where I was pulling a shiz ton of shots, measuring the extraction of every single shot, measuring the yield, the time, and everything for everything. And it was less consistent than, say, a Linea Mica or something along those lines. And whether or not that's changed, I can't speak to that. But the fact of the matter is that going to happen to you? Not unless you're pulling 100 shots in a row and measuring everything. Okay, and so that's what I said in the video, and people just chose to hear inconsistent and freaked out. Ain't nobody pulling 100 shots. Okay, you're pulling 4 or 5, 6 maybe as you're messing around with a shot in a day. It's going to be more than consistent enough for you. Okay, I wouldn't worry about it. It's good price in comparison with other machines here in Brazil, and I could upgrade to 2 machines if it became successful. I don't know what that's in reference to. 64 burn options do you recommend for dark roast espresso? 64 millimeter for dark espresso. If you can find those old school Swan burrs from La Marzocco, those are pretty snazzy. I have them somewhere. I thought they were sitting out in Ugo. Oh, they're back there. So my 2 favorite for darker roasted coffees. I mean, ceramics are always going to give you syrup, just straight up syrup. These do a great job, and you can still find them used in some areas. And then the other is the Ditting 64 burrs that are in the Cremina, the Olympia Cremina grinder. Those are pretty solid. I like those a lot. Oh. Yeah. Maybe it's two colors on top of each other to increase the height. You can do that. Yeah. I'm using a funnel, but I have toddler coordination. LOL. It's not satisfying because the mound is plastic. Because the middle piece is plastic rather than metal. Yeah, exactly. Love Sport Shaker. The one with the removable base even fits under the Zerno chute. Oh, heck yeah. I ring my Bomber blind shaker with my 3-year-old. She says, go ding-a-ling. I love it. How to use the shaker. I notice if I overshake, I create quite a lot of clumps and channeling gets in the way if I don't WDT afterwards. I do this. There it is. That's how I do it. Easy. Easy peasy. Oh, wow, wait. Buku grinder is an integrated slow feeder, vertical 80 millimeter burrs, real readout of burr gap. Wow. Oh my God. Would you recommend any other grinder in the US under 1K versus Phylos with I200D for single dose light mediums from V60s, both wanting more clarity coming from Maycap and stock? So I mean, yes. I said this on the last stream and people got, no, I wouldn't say upset, but people were like, I actually prefer the Time War 78S. Now, I think you're probably going to enjoy them both as much. I prefer the workflow, the aesthetic, and the size of the Time War a lot more than the Phylos. I prefer the 78 millimeter burrs a lot more than the 64 in the Phylos. And I think there's more flavor to be had in the Time War. And it has a robust motor, and there's nothing in it I can see failing anytime soon. So although people want to, say, that Mazda's a tank, I think the Time War is built like a tank, and I personally can't see any fail points that wouldn't be easily fixable. In that machine with that big old 400 watt brushless DC. So Lance with and without mustaches, Pepe to Jose Hihon, LOL. Do you think heat exchanger thermal stability has issues when using flow control? It's selling any E61 flow control, but online consists mixed on HX and flow control in general. I can't remember if I've actually tested that. But I would be surprised if there was that big of a temp swing because, in fact, I'm going to say I don't think there's going to be a temp swing. Me testing, for instance, I'm just going to say that instead of explaining because that would take too long to explain and it would still maybe be a little confusing. I'm skeptical it would have a big temperature swing if you flow control with the heat exchanger. I need to test it, but I'm gonna put forward my thinking is no, it will be fine. How do you preserve your coffee beans? Like that, right over my shoulder. With LeBrew 78 mils going very coarse on 78S produces chirping sound. I wouldn't say that it's connected to LeBrew. Interesting. I need to check out the LeBrews. I have them. I just haven't put them in yet. Making a cover of a Freddie Mercury song. Queen, hello. Of course. Like, what do you want? What do you want from me? What do you want? You want like let's see. Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? Caught in a landslide, though escape from reality. Open your eyes, look up to the skies and see. I'm just a poor boy. Okay, that's enough of that. Oh. Coming to Denmark soon. Hopefully, I would love to go back and see Darcy. Did you see the Discord chat about metal V60 draining faster than other V60s? Which one do you prefer? My plastic one cracked. I'm looking to get away from hot water and plastic. I would go metal. Metal's definitely what I would do other than plastic for show. Did not see the Discord chat about that. Let's see. Would I be surprised by that? Yes, I would be. I haven't looked at the geometry of the metal one in a while. My initial gut is assuming all geometry is identical. I would be surprised because cooler water, which the metal would make the water cooler, cooler water takes longer to get through coffee. But upon thinking, I know that the geometry is slightly different. Same with like ceramic and whatnot. So it could just be a difference in geometry. Thoughts on UFO dripper? I'm not a big fan of the UFO, and it's ironic because the reason I'm not a fan is what they push as being the reason it's great. I like Jay. I love that people are coming out with it with new products and things like, or with new excitement, I should say. But let's see. Well, I can't find the UFO, but I can find the musher for it. But it's super wide, right? And his whole thing is it gives you a more shallow bed, which gives you more even extraction. I actually argue the opposite. I don't want a more shallow bed. I want a deeper bed to an extent. There's a range where is ideal. Kind of like with espresso, there's a range. You don't want just like a straw where it's like the deepest and the narrowest. But there's a range, and I think this falls outside of the range for me. So does the April dripper. It's way too wide for me. So I prefer more narrow and deep beds. To an extent. It's a decent number V6, but you have influenced me into buying the Weber tamper. Oh no! Enjoy that money. Weber is clearly paying you. You don't need to buy stuff! What do you do with water left over in the kettle? I use it. I use it. I don't know what to say. I use it. Were the single dose tubes always there? No. Those are those. It's because I'm waiting for my freezer to arrive on Thursday. How do you feel about the hoop? Scott seems really excited about it. Scott's definitely excited about the theory behind it, the brew theory behind it. I understand why, but I've never really been that big into these no bypass style brews. It's not been my thing. I find they mute aromas. They're less interesting. But yeah. Do you think you still have both a V60, 01, and 02? You can. I never use my 01, like ever. You can, though. I do 02, and I do my Kafek Deep 27, but mostly my 02. More magnesium than calcium or more calcium than magnesium? I almost always use more magnesium than calcium. I think folks who have access to Alstrom 909 lab filters should try that before switching to step down. I'm not sure I get why that would help with a smaller diameter, but I'm trying to understand. For TS testing espresso, filter or not? I do not filter. I think it's actually worse. OG J-Max still worth it. Absolutely. Porver, does a lower pour speed with more turns around the bed or a higher pour speed with fewer turns cause greater agitation? Actually, I'm not quite sure. I'd need to really think about that. On Decent, do you find yourself picking a profile you stick to as a default, or do you switch between profiles frequently? I don't use my Decent very often. I'm a lever boy. I'm just a lever boy. I drink only lever shots. That's really all I really enjoy. Comment my 64 MPs. What are your favorite viewers for traditional style Spro? I've answered that. Never really liked filter. I tried that Aiden, fell in love with its consistency. I also started to wonder what I'm missing out on cold brew, Cascara, etc. Do you drink anything other than espresso or filter-based drinks? I don't remember ever seeing a video from you about them. I drink just filter. I don't do cold brew, Cascara. Any personal tips to distribute more evenly with palm tapping? It's hard, but don't hold the portafilter as tightly. Hold it loosely. Tuck, 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 tuck. That's really, I don't know what else to say about it. It's kind of hard to describe, but I'm just going to tell you in like, hush up. Okay. But yeah, we going like that. Weirdest coffee extraction method you've ever tried? Weirdest coffee extraction method you've ever tried? I'm not sure. Phyllis built like a tank as the housing sags and messes with alignment. Okay. Yes. Listen, I've like, you pick and choose your battles, okay? That's the thing. You pick and choose your battles. And the battles this past week have been hella trolls that I swear are AI going on my Phylos versus Zerno video and just trying to pick fights. And it is ridiggity donkulous. All right. It's wild. It's crazy. Got the set down basket from Sworks, and I keep having trouble dialing as much as needing to grind much finer, even though I have a much taller puck. Oh, that's weird. Yeah, I don't know. Don't forget about the DF83B for good choices under K. Yes, it is a good choice. I still prefer the time more though. Like, definitely. Thoughts on Mad Max Fury Road? I've not seen it, Pedro. Would you change the default burrs of the Time War 064S if its use case was majority milk coffee with the occasional espresso? No, I would not. I would keep those in. I'd keep them in, baby. Oh. Yeah, you want to use the spring with the step down. I see Elliot is talking to you about that. Let's see. First, we'll try again. Maybe that time I got the grinding. Anybody else had the same. Also, Mountain adds to puck resistance, so you won't necessarily need a taller puck to grind coarser. Plus, it filters astringency. Yes. Okay. So it's not just that you're getting coarser. And yes, I've tried the Alstrom 909s. So it's more so that you are getting. It's kind of like when you have a like this V60 versus Kafek. The depth of the bed versus the Deep 27. The depth of the bed has a big influence on the extraction. Even if you have more resistance, water is going through different lengths of the coffee puck, regardless of the resistance on the bottom. But yes, those Alstroms 909 as well as Wutman 5s add resistance to the puck and allow for a coarser grind size, and can filter astringency. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, those are fun for sure. They're just hella wasteful as well. And I'm just not a big fan of having to use paper filters every time I pull Spro, personally. And they're not cheap for packs of those. They're not cheap. So if you're trying to dial it in and you use it, yeah. What's the reason you use more magnesium than calcium? It depends. It's just what I've been doing more recently, and it's honestly because it tastes better with the Onyx EU coffees. Is that I'm going to geek out Omni in the background? Yes, it is, because I'm reviewing it. I have an easier time palm tapping when I take the basket out of the portafilter first. Oh, interesting. Can an espresso machine handle any amount of hardness? I've heard some types of hardness like potassium don't cause scale. You can do Dr. Pavlis water, and you won't have any scale or corrosion. EU plug for 909 filters. Why do you prefer levers over pump machines? Piston, baby, that smooth application of pressure. I can't prove anything other than my own taste experience, and I always tend to prefer piston or volumetric pump style shots where it's not rotary or gear pump or vibratory. I get really nice, tasty shots, and they seem to be more consistent and just tastier. I don't know. I like it. Do you think the clever dripper is the best newbie pour over foolproof method? Probably. Good night, Zoltan. If extra resistance is helping with extraction, are we going to bring pressurized baskets back? Maybe we should. Lever won't over extract as easily. That's true. Is there a noticeable difference in the cup between a J Ultra and an 064S, for example, for espresso primary milk drinks? Not a massive noticeable difference, I would say, between those two, specifically with milk drinks. Thanks for doing these. You're appreciated. Don't feed the trolls. Honestly, my mental well-being right now is about as strong as them right there. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not worried about it. Have you talked about LeBrews? No, not yet, because I have not yet put them in my grinder. I'm doing that this week. Forte burst for DF54. Do you think it's worth it to come up with a way to put in a polarity switch? You have to in order to use the Forte. You have to reverse the direction of the motor. You can't use those. How's the coffee subscription going? I'm still working on Onyx EU stuff. We're still not smooth sailing yet. The volume's not high enough for it to be smooth sailing. Just having fun with Philo's comments, trying to troll. Hey, I like the troll. All right. So don't think I didn't like the troll. All right. I've caught up on, I'll be in Discord talking about LeBrew 78S as soon as I get mine. Nice. I've caught up on comments, so I'm going to go ahead and hop off. Thank you very much for joining and for, checking out the stashless Lance, hearing you like taller pour overs, have you used the fellow XF dripper? I'm on the Aiden train now, but the XF was previously my go-to. So it's not that I like really tall beds or anything. Like I said, it's kind of it's a range. Okay, it's a range. I might go try them next to the 80 at ULFs. Nice. Cheers. How many kilos of onyx do you have to hand grinder every day to get so jacked? Well, you know. Okay. See ya. Thank you, Lance. Thanks. Take care. Thanks. Good night, all. Good night, everyone. Good night. Good night. It's time to say good night. Good night. Learn to turn on the brakes before I even turn the key. Before I make the mistake. Before I leave with the worst of me. Give them no reason to stare. Where is the end stream button? I don't care. Oh, I got no reason. Okay. Bye. I found the end stream.